and may be precluded from participating in future opportunities for public comment. Please be courteous and respectful. Please turn off or mute all cell phones and pagers. The first person who wishes to speak, and I remind you that it's a 3-minute limit, please.
I got it.
James Appa.
Well, wasn't there somebody ahead of me?
He was, but they crossed the name.
Okay. I'd just like to remind the council of two things. We sort of goofed in taking the vote, so I'm sure you've all read the emails now that when a vote was taken and it failed, it gets laid upon the table. We operate under the rules, Robert's Rules of Order. It was so ordained by the folks that started this city back, I think, 1954. And it's a slight irregularity, but we do need to follow the proper procedure. Without following the proper procedure, it opens us up to some legal bites, which I would rather not go into. It's just a slight delay, not a big problem. We just need to follow the correct rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mapp.
Gary, can you make sure everyone says their address?
Oh. Yes.
Oh.
Could you tell us your address?
Garden Road, 76350.
If you can understand God.
Across the street, just let it go.
So when you stand to make your comment, please remember we're limited to 3 minutes, and please start by giving us your name and address. Next is Don Hadley.
Name's Don Hadley, 47696 Beaver Street. And I'm talking about the same thing that James talked about. This has got your ordinance exactly in there. We've done a little bit of research, and I'd appreciate it if you read this and not pass the budget tonight until we reconvene the budget committee, because it's pretty important.
Mr. Hadley, the city reporter needs a copy, please.
And I have a copy of the vote right here from the city. So you guys can see how it was made, which you guys all should have a copy of it. If you don't, you can ask Susie, she'll give you one. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Don Reisman.
Don Reisman, 4773 Franklin Drive, Oakridge, Oregon, 97463. I'm here to address the city council and asking if there is some kind of a motion or statement you follow in electing a intern here. You can't answer us? Not right now? Okay. Thank you.
Next person is Melissa. How do you pronounce your last name, Melissa?
Bjornson.
Bjornson.
Melissa Bjornson, 4521 Highway 58. I'm donating my 3 minutes to Chrissy College.
Next speaker is Paul Bjornson.
Paul Bjornson, 48521 Highway 58, Oakridge. I'm also donating my 3 minutes to Chrissy Holler.
Does anybody know what the procedure is on that? I don't know. If
No,
this is
in all the years I've been here, we do
we
not
don't do
donate.
that, but
I've seen it.
You can yield time.
I don't know. Chrissy, do you think you're going to need a whole lot more than 3 minutes?
Yes.
About 10.
Okay.
Yeah, it puts us in a difficult spot. We have a rule of 3 minutes. I'm going to bend that a little bit, since, but not a whole lot.
Start reading
Scott Hallett.
Scott Hollett, 48370 7th Street. I was also going to donate my 3 minutes.
I feel like you love that.
Councilor Carl, again, it has been the practice of the city, all the years I've been here, I've been here that many, but not quite a few, and know that tonight a donation of minutes, they give each person this.
And so, Chrissy Hollett, Chrissy, I'd like to ask you to limit your remarks. I know you probably have a lot you want to say, and all these folks have tried to donate their time, but I don't think that's an appropriate strategy, not strategy, it's not the right word, an appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate, but I will bend the rules slightly and I give you 5 minutes.
Paul, will you read part of it? How about the people that have signed up, they read part of my letter?
That's fine.
So you wanna let me know when 3 minutes has happened and then I'll pass it to the next person?
Sure.
Okay. Do you wanna let them know this?
If you guys can
There's a
read
couple
it.
more people on there that donated time.
Don Kenyon and Jan Hooker are the only other 2 people signed up.
I'm one that was gonna donate my time, Gary. So,
You just have to pick up and read.
I was gonna say, they should have it done by then.
Yeah.
I'm really nervous to read, I've never spoken here before, so.
Name and address?
Chrissy Hollett, 48370 7th Street, Oakridge. Councilor Rowland asked who was terminated at the last meeting. I raised my hand to be acknowledged that I was the fire department member terminated by Michael Hansen. I'd like to publicly state what and how that occurred. Over a long period of time, Michael Hansen was approached on multiple occasions with complaints. He chose to do nothing with the complaints within our department, and that snowballed. I personally came forward and asked that Michael Hansen meet with me over an incident that's taken place during a training exercise involving myself and Mr. Leo Robb. When I arrived to meet Mr. Hansen, I was surprised to see Susie LaDuke with him. Michael Hansen immediately explained, as he did to many of us, that he was bringing Susie in to investigate because she had just completed her investigator's class course. At the last council meeting, Susie did not accurately explain this to you. Susie stated that she was not licensed until October of 2017, but this is a half-truth. She was actually certified in February of 2017, and I have enclosed that document of that certification. She was, however, licensed in October, although her PI license card may not say she was employed with Michael V. Hansen LLC, but her application filed with the Department of Safety Standards and Trainings she listed was working under Michael V. Hansen as her place of business. That's on her application that I have for you as well. During my first interview, I explained the most recent incident that happened with myself and Leo Robb, and a couple additional incidents that occurred that had made me feel discriminated and harassed in the fire department. I left this interview feeling that I was not able to appropriately share what was going on in our fire department. Susie did explain that she would do a follow-up interview with me. After weeks of not hearing from her, I reached out to Susie again and requested a second interview. I stated I felt there was more things pertinent that needed to be brought to her attention, as it was my understanding she was my HR director and this was confidential, as I would be protected from retaliation. My second interview, conducted by both Susie and Sergeant Michael Hansen, was not present. I believed that I was able to speak freely and absolutely confidential at the time. I brought to their attention that we did not have policies on discrimination, harassment, and hostile work environment. I outlined other policies and procedures that were not being followed. I explained that they were no longer having safety meetings as
3 minutes.
2 minutes, 30 seconds.
According to mine, it is 3 minutes.
You give
from the
her
time
5.
she stood up.
Don't take your time.
Thanks for caring.
Next person.
Wow.
Okay. I explained that we were no longer having safety meetings as prior to Michael Hansen's arrival, nor did we have clear guidelines on where to go for safety complaints or any complaints for that matter. I informed Susie and Michael that after the last incident, Michael Hansen had been stating to members and staff to no longer treat Leo Robb as lieutenant. He went as far as to notify staff under no circumstances to put Leo in charge of anything. I explained to both Susie and Michael McPherson that not only was this unfair to both the membership, but also extremely unfair to Lieutenant Leo Robb, to go along assuming he's still lieutenant and acting as such, and not knowing what Michael Hansen was telling other members behind his back. I also believe that Lieutenant Leo Robb deserved the opportunity of leadership training. This was never an attack on Leo, and I never stated that I felt he'd be terminated. This was entirely a plea for mediation and conflict resolution for not only myself, but others in the department. I posed the question that if an accident were to happen, myself and others believe it will be negligent of the fire department and city, and they need to protect their liabilities. How can we do our job safely and effectively if our lieutenant doesn't even know we're not supposed to take orders from him? I went on to explain some of the dynamics, and that Leo and I both were often in leadership roles together, and I had a very strong desire that we work better together. In the past, Leo, Rob, and I got along very well and accomplished great things together for the community. Above all, in the second interview, I explained that the department had a severe lack of leadership, and that it came from the top, Michael Hansen. Almost immediately after the second meeting with Susie and Michael, the hostile workplace became worse. It was very evident that what I had said was not kept confidential as had been promised. After the second meeting, a fire department member came to me at my house and reported that they were in fear of retaliation and extremely uncomfortable with the department because they had witnessed Michael Hansen and Susie LaDuke inappropriately touching each other, and Michael Hansen pulled Susie into one of the fire station dorm bedrooms. Michael Hansen stated to the person, "Nothing happened, you didn't see anything." I was asked for advice on what to do, as I was at the time the volunteer president. I was shocked and felt sick knowing everything I just recently came to Susie about regarding Michael Hansen. I told the person I honestly had no idea what to do. This person couldn't report to the fire chief, they could not seek out HR director, and couldn't trust the city administrator because Hansen routinely stated that he wouldn't be going anywhere if Louis was still city administrator. This is what is meant in the letter read by Paul Bjornson a couple weeks ago by stating we are powerless and at the mercy of an unethical relationship. On July 18, 2017, Michael Hansen privately informed me that he was personally terminating me. Michael stated that I did not do anything to receive disciplinary actions, however he felt the department had divided into two sides, the Leo side and the Chrissy side. He stated Leo would possibly be terminated as well, but at a minimum he would be taking disciplinary actions by demoting Leo Robb.
3 minutes.
As well, in making it mandatory that Leo attend trainings in harassment and discrimination, even though Leo was at fault. He was terminating me because, in his words, Leo responded on more calls. I was devastated and begged him to reconsider. He stated he made this decision alone. I begged him, stating that terminating myself or Leo is completely not what anyone wanted. Myself and members wanted mediation and conflict resolution. Michael Hansen stated that the investigation was over and it was too late to do any mediation. Michael Hansen also stated that it was his fault that he did not make attempts of mediation as per requested earlier on. He told me to go out gracefully and you can come back in a year. I have remained quiet because of my love for the community and the fire department and my extreme desire to come back to responding on emergencies in my community. After receiving this devastating news, I reached out to Sergeant Michael McPherson. She was shocked and said, "Chrissy, you must have misunderstood. There was not anything that came from the investigation to recommend terminating you, or anyone else on the department for that matter. She suggested that I go back and speak with Hansen again because I surely had misunderstood. I assured her that there was no misunderstanding what I heard. After her shock, she also wrote a support letter for me against any termination of myself or anyone from the department. Letter enclosed. I would like for you to all think for a minute. Do you think for 1 second that I would have shared anything with Susie that may have been against Michael Hansen had I known she was his personal employee? Not to mention that if I had known the reports of an inappropriate relationship, never. I would have never felt safe, just as people do not feel safe now. More recently, this inappropriate behavior witnessed by one member was brought to the attention of both Susie and Michael Hansen directly, face to face by another member. This is a well-known issue within the fire department, and both Susie and Michael Hansen should have recused themselves from the complaint as it should be investigated by another source. Counsel, I have been in the fire and EMS service since I was 18. This has been my passion all my adult life. I was a full-time paid career staff with Lane Fire Authority for over 8 years. I managed a $3 million annual budget. I was responsible for many areas in the district. I have the utmost respect for the job and the emergency services in its entirety.
3 minutes.
After my second child was
3
born
minutes.
with a heavy heart, I decided to take time
3
off.
minutes.
Okay.
Mayor Carl, do you want me to stop now?
Do you have someone else that can continue reading? You have Jan.
But you are the mayor.
Pardon?
You're the city mayor.
Who's the
No,
mayor?
we have a rule of 3 minutes, so I'd like.
Well,
You need to.
you authorized 5, and
Uh,
she obviously is playing favorites.
Authorized 5, I gave you 9. 3 and 3 and 3 is 9 minutes.
He authorized her 5 minutes, and you did not let her take 5 minutes.
Oh, no.
So anyway,
Yeah.
do you want to read the rest?
Hold on.
This is how it goes. I read that letter,
Point of order.
and what has happened since then? Absolutely nothing.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to give you your opportunity to. That's how everyone.
There were a number of people who had signed up. There was Melissa, Harrison, Paul Harrison, and Chrissy Holly. Have all those people had 3 minutes?
Scott just had to
3
go on.
people have had 3 minutes.
Well, Scott just had to leave for a call. He had-
I'm gonna use mine for her instead of me. I also maintain my position as secretary for the county's fire prevention team, and I am involved in many county events. I've been extremely active in the Oakridge Fire Department and the community, promoting safety and responding on just about any emergencies. Since my termination from Oakridge, I have been asked by both Lowell Fire and Dexter Fire to become a part of their 2 fire districts. I have worked with every fire department district in the county in one fashion or another, from emergency scenes, training exercises, fire prevention, or public relations, and can provide letters of recommendation from however many needed to prove myself of my character. But the letter of support I wish you would read are the many, many letters that were submitted by Oakridge fire members and community against Michael Hansen's actions. I have never once had any disciplinary actions in my entire career at any of the agencies I'm affiliated with, and that's including Oakridge Fire and EMS. This entire situation has been devastating and very humiliating that it's gone on. I love this community, and I believe I have shown that over and over and over and over the course of my 10.5 years representing Oakridge Fire and EMS. This has all torn a fire family apart, a family of firefighters and EMTs that genuinely love this community and always put the community's needs first. People that have given up their dinner times, their sporting events, their evenings with their family to make some of the biggest sacrifices and to take care of the community, to give the community their best. You 3 have put your own personal businesses, agendas above the community and above the citizens here, instead of genuinely trying to bring things together and make things a success. There has been more focus on attending to your own personal business relationships. Council, please take action with an outside investigation. These issues exist and will only continue unless action is taken. Sincerely, respectfully, Chrissy Hollett. And she has attachments, and I believe she has copies for the council.